it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop, and I'm super excited to be participating in the Got Joy Creations Holiday Card Series 2019. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some Copic coloring using this adorable little stamp set from My Favorite Things. It's called Tweet Holidays, and I'm also going to be using this snowflake window die. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is take our background, which is the piece that the snowflake is going to lay over, and create this rainbow pattern with our Distress Oxide inks. So it really stands out with that white snowflake on top of it, and it really makes those colors pop. So I'm going to be using Salty Ocean, Barn Door, Picked Raspberry, and Mowed Lawn. I'm going to go ahead and start with my Salty Ocean. So whatever color that you prefer to show up more, I would start with that one. And I'm just going to kind of start going off of my paper. And then over here, and just kind of pick here and there where you want some color to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my Picked Raspberry and add some pink. Maybe a little bit here. And then we'll go ahead and do some red. And we'll go a little bit over here. And now let's go ahead and do a little bit of green. And since I don't have a whole lot of room, I'm going to go up here right next to this blue just so I can add a little bit more of the green. So now that I have my colors on there, I like to go back and add another layer so that way we have some more blending going between the colors. So I'm going to go back with my pink and really go in between some of the colors so that way you get a nice blend between each one. And then I'm going to take my blue and a little more down in here. And I'm going to actually go, instead of going back with my red, I want a little bit more pink to show up. So I'm going to go back with my pink and just add a little bit more color. And now I'll go back with a little bit of the red. So don't be afraid to push down so that way you get a nice solid color and you don't see any of the white cardstock underneath. Okay, so happy with that. Looks good. We're going to go ahead and set it aside, clean up our mess, and do some Copic coloring. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start coloring these cute little birdies. And just if you're not familiar with my Copic coloring or my videos in general, I just want to explain why my view is a little bit at an angle. Some people I get a lot of questions asking why, so I just wanted to touch base since I am doing a guest post on another YouTube channel, just so you know why. I like my video to be at an angle so that way you can see the nib touch the paper and you can really tell how hard the pressure is that I'm pushing onto the nib. So if I were to record directly above, a lot of times my hand covers the image and you can't see what I'm doing, and you can't see the angle of where the nib is, so you can tell how hard I'm pushing, or if I'm flicking the pressure that I'm putting on the paper. It really makes a huge difference in my opinion. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that before we get started with the coloring. So the first thing that I like to color when I'm coloring an image is whatever's the lightest. So the little rim on the hat they're white, so we're gonna go ahead and give them a little bit of a shadow. And also the center on the tummies of the birds, they're also white, so we're gonna go ahead and get that colored so we can have a little bit of a shadow on there. Since we are leaving it white, we just wanna touch it up, like I said, and add that little bit of a shadow and still keep a white area. So I'm gonna start with my N3 and go right underneath on the bottom part of the hat and just add a little bit of a line. Then we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of a line at the top part right underneath the beak. And the same thing over here on this side, just so we're giving it a little bit of a shadow. And then I'm going to take my N1 and we're going to blend it out a little bit. So I'm going to go right above those lines on the hat, and we're going to come out a little bit more on the tummy. And then we're going to take C00 and we're going to blend it out just a little bit more. So this blends nicely into the white. You could give a little flick going up. That way we're just shadowing that area and not filling it in completely. Then we're going to go ahead and go right underneath that scarf and just add that little bit of a shadow. And we're going to make a little shadow on the bottom part of the little fluffy ball on the hat. So anytime I'm coloring something white, I always like to give it a little bit of a shadow. So now we're going to go ahead and color the birds, which are going to be E43, E42, and E41. I'm going to start with my E43. And we're going to come right underneath the hat, since the hat would be casting a little bit of a shadow onto the little birdie. And I'm going to come down on the sides just a little bit. On the back part of the wing, we're going to make a little shadow, and then underneath the scarf right there. Same thing over here, so right underneath the hat, and we're going to come down a little bit on the side, the back part of the wing, and right underneath that scarf. We're also going to add a little bit of a shadow on the base of his tail. Just give a couple little flicks going out. And then we're going to take the E42, and we're just going to come out a little bit more. So I'm just dragging my marker right across, pulling it down, and coming a little farther out from the E43. When we want to pull some of that darker E43 out, that way it starts to blend. And now we're going to take the E41. Do the same thing. You want to get a nice blend right along the edge of that E42, and once you have that nice blend, you can go ahead and fill in the rest of the bird. You only want to go over it once you have that nice blend, so there's that nice transition between the colors, and going over it just the one time right down here and filling in the rest of the bird will keep that area lighter. Fill in the tail and do the same thing over here. So get that nice blend right along the edge, and then we'll go ahead and fill in the rest of the bird. So their little beaks are going to be an orangey color, but I didn't want to use anything too orange because it didn't really match good with our background. So I'm going to use Y17, which has an orange feel to it, but it's a little bit softer. And we're just going to fill in their little beaks. And then we're going to go ahead and start coloring the hats. So one of them is going to be blue and the other one's going to be green. We'll start with the green one, and I'm just going to take my YG63, add a little bit of a shadow underneath the little white puffy ball and a little bit going along the top part. So there's really not a whole lot of room here for a lot of definition, but we still want to keep those shadows on there. So now I'm just going to take my YG61 and just fill in the rest of the hat, and you can still see that little bit of a shadow underneath those the fuzzy ball. We're going to do the same thing with our blue color, so we're going to be using B12 and B00. I'm going to go right underneath the hat for that shadow area and right above the little fluffy part of the hat. And then we're going to take our B00 and just fill in those little areas. If you wanted to, you can always go back with your N3 and just give it a little touch up with the shadow. So we'll just go right underneath that little fuzzy ball and give it a little bit more of a shadow. So now for the scarf, which we're going to be making pink, I'm going to be using R85, R83, and R81. I'm going to start with R85, and we're going to add color to where the shadows are going to be. So right where it's starting to wrap around, and then also along the bottom of the scarf. So we're going to do the same thing over here. And then right where it's starting to come over, we're going to add a little bit of a shadow up here, and then also behind this one. It's going to be completely shadowed underneath and along this side, because we want to make it look like this one's in front of this one a little bit. So we want to put a little bit of a shadow right there. And then we're going to take our 83, and we're just going to pull the color out a little bit. Still leaving room so we have that R81. So you're just going to go over some of that R85 so we could pull the color out. And the same thing here. And then we're going to take the R81, get a nice blend right along the edge, and then fill in the rest of the scarf. All right. So now it's time to die cut our little birdies. Okay, so we have our snowflake window that we're going to glue flat to our distress background. I have my card base, which opens towards the, along the side. I like to have my cards open from the top so that way they sit nicely. I've used a Spellbinder's stitching die, which comes right out so that it frames our background just perfectly. So let's go ahead and assemble this card. So I'm going to take the snowflake die, and we're just going to add a little bit of glue here in the center of some of these larger snowflakes, just so it lays a little flat. And then we're going to go ahead and go all the way around. And we're going to place it right in the center. Now this is a little bit bigger, so it's going to have a nice colorful border going around. We're going to set that flat. And then we're going to go ahead and attach it to our card base. I'm going to be using some foam tape so that way it has a little bit of dimension. And then we're going to place it on our card. So that way it's centered. And then we're going to put these cute little birds right here in the corner and our sentiment right above them. So right in there. I'm going to be using some pop dots. Okay, I've assembled my cards, so now I have two. They both came out just beautifully. I love the way that that rainbow background comes out with all the white. It really, really pops. So thank you so much for watching my video, and thank you so much to Dana for having me on your Christmas card series. I had a lot of fun creating this, and I hope I've inspired you to create some of your own Christmas cards. We'll have the links down below if you would like to check out more of my work. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and have a Merry Christmas.